Hello, and welcome to Sideways. This week, we're talking about being duffed up behind the bicycle sheds and having your lunch money stolen. Or perhaps getting pushed around at work by someone who has a more senior position than you, but a very junior and fragile sense of self. Most of us have seen it happening, and many of us have experienced the pain of being bullied. So we're looking at the origin of a bully and how we deal with one. I get upset about some coffee brewing advice. Martin shares a story about inviting friends round for dinner that will help you lose your friends altogether. And we explore the perils of admitting to being a terrorist. Bullying.
Good morning to you.
Good morning to you.
How are you?
I'm all right. How are you?
I'm all right, thanks, mate. Yeah, good. Good form.
That's the pleasantries over and done with.
It is, yeah. It's good enough for me.
Yeah. I'm going to start this week with something I'm not grateful for.
You get it off your chest. Go on.
Because it's annoying me.
Okay.
I was watching a video on TikTok yesterday. I expect are you familiar with TikTok? It's very popular with the young people.
Yes, I'm very well aware of it. But that's your first problem. Isn't it? Started watching TikTok.
No, it's quite nice. It's quite good for videos of people falling over.
Yes, true.
Anyway, this was an informative video by someone who seems to know a lot about coffee. I just stumbled across it, and he was talking about the best ways to make coffee in a mocha stovetop coffee maker. I don't know what you make your coffee in. Do you make your coffee in one of those?
No, in a what are they called?
Cafetiere.
Cafetiere, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so I've got this little coffee pot. It's like an Italian thing that you put on the stove and it heats the water, and the water goes through the ground coffee to make an extraction that you then drink, right? I'd always made my coffee. I always put cold water in the bottom of the thing and let it heat up on the gas and go through the grounds. But he was saying one of the things you should always do is put boiling water in the base of the maker.
Okay.
Because it gives you a better brew. So I thought, okay, I'll give that a go. I've done that to make this coffee that I've got here. Absolutely terrible, it is.
Is it?
So I'm not at all grateful for his advice, which quite frankly was unsolicited.
Well, okay, I can see you've taken exception. I mean, I see it as a sort of a bit of a first world problem, to be honest, mate. You know, but I can see you're irked by it.
I accept there are bigger issues in the world, but it's the one that happens to be a thorn in my side right at this moment.
Okay, yeah, well, nothing wrong with a bit of instant coffee, to be honest, mate. Bang it on.
Everything wrong with it. Actually, that's something else. I saw another piece of information the other day, that might have been on TikTok as well, that said, if you want to make your instant coffee less shit, put a little bit of salt in it.
Really?
Apparently. I mean, I don't drink instant coffee, as you know, but if you are an instant coffee drinker out there, apart from the fact you should stop, try putting a little bit of salt in it if you get fed up with it being really terrible. But whatever you do, don't put boiling water in the bottom of your mocha pot. Nonsense.
Well, I think we've rounded that subject up nicely there.
Good. Is that it for this week? Is that it for this week?
Thanks for your input. Yeah, we're doing an episode on coffee that would have filled it right up by now.
I feel like it's important for me to get that off my chest, because otherwise it would have been bugging me for the whole episode.
And I'm glad you feel that this is the platform to do it, and you feel comfortable enough to air your grievances.
Yeah, I do. I feel as if I'm amongst friends.
Anyway,
what?
Well, yes, I wanted to talk to you about bullying.
Right, good subject.
Well, it was something. It's an idea that suddenly popped up. Actually, I've spelt that poped up. It's been poped. I don't think is it Pope Francis, the current Pope? I don't think he's involved in this, to be honest. But
well, I mean, I suppose it depends how you classify bullying. But I expect there has been bullying in the church, don't you?
I expect the Vatican's full of it.
I don't think you can make that assertion.
They better cut that one out in case we crossed some boundaries there. Anyway,
you'll be in trouble with the Catholics.
That's the last thing we want. Anyway, it popped up in our last episode on popularity.
Yes, it did.
We talked about bullying right at the end of the episode, and it also cropped up in our episode on gaslighting. So it's high time we took it to a stage further, I think, and it surprises me. Well, no, perhaps it doesn't surprise me, but it often is it comes up in groups as one of the reasons why people have sought sanctuary in drink and drugs. It may have even started in their childhood, but if certainly with bullying in adulthood, it can be a way of moving yourself emotionally away from the situation when you immerse yourself quite catastrophically, often with drink and drugs.
Yeah, and of course, if you have immersed yourself in drink and drugs, then you are more susceptible to bullying because you're vulnerable.
We are. Yeah, you are. Yes, absolutely right. Yeah. But I was going to do it before we start, but I think you've probably stolen the march. I can leave that till next time if you like.
Well, no, you crack on. I wouldn't want you to feel as if you've been in some way restricted
or usurped.
Or denied.
Well, no, I make it easier for my notes next week. I can just copy and paste it across.
No, it's lazy, basically.
It is lazy. I'll do it anyway then in that case. It's quite a quick one, really. It was just a story that seems to have gone viral. About someone who was invited round to, and I don't want you to get any ideas, okay, about this before I take it further. Someone was invited round to a friend's house for dinner.
Yeah.
And then they were emailed an invoice for 15 quid. Which is it's a bit harsh, isn't it, really?
What? That's ridiculous. That can't have happened.
Oh, well, apparently so. And other people sort of commented on similar situations. Someone said they were invited, they weren't offered a drink when they went around to someone's house because they hadn't bought any with them. And I don't know
No, surely this doesn't happen, does it?
Well, I don't know if people are just making these up, but apparently there was a story a couple of years ago, you may remember it, where someone couldn't attend a wedding due to an illness, and they were sent a charge to cover the cost of the reception meal.
I can't. I mean, it's staggering, that.
Yeah, I mean, cash really is king for some people, I suppose, but it's unbelievably insensitive, isn't it?
What sort of relationship would you have to have with someone where you would feel able to invoice them after inviting them round for dinner? And I have to say, £15 doesn't sound like much of a dinner. Does it? It
doesn't. But what I'm thinking is, they couldn't even do it face to face. They had to email them later. It's almost bullying on its own, isn't it?
Yeah, you're trying to shoehorn in a
little bit
there, aren't you?
A little bit, yeah.
I mean, what would you do if you came round to mine for dinner and I sent you an invoice by email? How would you respond?
Well, I'd laugh because I thought that can't be real.
I'm going to try it.
If it did turn out to be real, I just simply wouldn't come around anymore. That's just disgraceful.
I might invoice my children.
Try it. Just try it for a laugh to see what happens, and report back on what their reaction is.
I like stories like that. It reminds me of one that I sent to my son this week, and his response to it was he'd already seen it, and he said that made me laugh out loud. I don't know if you saw it. There was a story in the paper this week about a grandfather who was off on the trip of a lifetime to the US, and he was filling in his immigration form, and he got confused with one of the questions, got all muddled, and he ticked the box to say he was a terrorist.
Oh my God!
Which somewhat put his journey in jeopardy.
Because normally terrorists would tick that box, wouldn't they? Be honest, wouldn't they?
Well, he said in his defence, he said, I don't really even know why they've got that question on there. I think terrorists are known for their moral fibre and their honesty and integrity, aren't they?
Well, if they're confronted with this, actually, I better cough up now. Yeah.
If you were a terrorist and you were asked, "Are you a terrorist?" it'd be awkward, wouldn't it, to say no, and then for it to turn out later that you are. Well,
it would. Yeah, you'd lack a bit of moral compass, wouldn't you, if you lied at that point?
Exactly. Yeah. Anyway,
on to the subject matter.
Yeah.
Of bullying. I mean, a quick thanks here to ditchthelabel.org, which I've got some of the info from the beginning for the first part of this episode.
Nice.
Because they come up with a definition and why people become bullies. So I wanted to do that, and then we go on to it. The second part is how we deal with it. So just looking at the definition, we'll do that first, because although there's no sort of singular definition of bullying, because it comes in all shapes and sizes and subtleties, it can be simplified as unwanted behaviour from one person to another designed to hurt, harm or cause distress to them. So that probably sums it up quite nicely. But I was quite interested why why people become bullies. And there's probably an absolute myriad of answers to that, or opinions. But these were just a few little bullet points I thought were quite interesting, and just to see what you thought of them, really. And the first one is that that people use it as a coping mechanism to deal with stress and trauma.
Definitely. I'm definitely on board with that one.
Yeah. I don't think if I'm feeling stressed or traumatic, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to go find someone to bully.
Well, it's funny you should say that, because there are 3 ways in which we can kind of dysfunctionally deal with overwhelming stress and anxiety, and or, any sort of emotional situation that's causing us difficulty that we don't know how to handle. The first way is to surrender to it, where it kind of flattens us. The second way that we sometimes dysfunctionally deal with it is to avoid it. And the third way is we counterattack it. So we come out into the world as if actually we're much stronger than we're feeling. And that would be the one that would, sit alongside bullying.
Bullying, right, okay. That makes sense. The second point was learned aggressive behaviour. So when it's normalised in the family or a peer group setting. Yeah. I think we can agree with that one, can't we?
Absolutely. If a parent was a bully, or you saw one parent bullying another, then you're much more likely to continue that behaviour.
Yeah, and we'll expand on that in a moment. But low self-esteem was one that came up as well, where you're deflecting attention away from yourselves or themselves when they're dishing out the bullying tactics.
Yeah, that's kind of like that's not dissimilar to the first point, is it? Really?
No, it's not really. And the one about normalisation around family, or if someone's been bullied themselves, they're twice as likely apparently to become a bully.
Is that right?
Yeah, twice as likely. I mean, you hear it sometimes, don't you, where people have been subjected to sexual abuse when they're young, and then they're much more likely then to become an abuser later on down the line. Yeah. Bullying seems to follow a similar pattern.
That's interesting. Well, I was bullied. I don't think I've ever been a bully.
No. Although, I know you mentioned
I was accused of being aggressive in a shoe shop once.
Well, if ever there's a place to be aggressive, you've got plenty of weaponry around you. You could pick up a stiletto or two. Bosh, away you go.
Or some platform heels.
But yes, other points were difficult home life. We've sort of touched on there. So if it's a fractured family, so a broken home, it could lead to that. One of them that was a bit strange, really, was low access to education. Which I think they meant by, somebody for constantly playing truant, or because most people do have access to education, don't they? It's just if they choose to take it up or not.
Well, I suppose so. The immediate thought I had there was that potentially kind of dovetails with an absence of knowing how to deal with things in a more measured, perhaps sometimes intellectual way, being able to think your way through things. And
yeah. The way I was perhaps interpreting it was also if they hadn't been, the way forward of trying to stop it in the first place is educating people to see what the consequences of bullying are. So perhaps they haven't had access to that sort of information, which potentially would have stopped it or nipped it in the bud.
Yeah.
The last point there was insecure relationships, where perhaps people feel pressured to act in a certain way to maintain a friendship. So if they're around people that are sort of showing signs of being a bully, and they want to maintain a friendship with that person, they're probably more likely to jump into that situation with them.
Yeah, this goes back to likability versus status, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. It does, which I think dovetails in nicely. So if anyone wants to go back and listen to that episode,
it's still available.
It's still available, yeah.
As are the other 200 odd or whatever there is now.
I know, there's a lot of them there, isn't there, mate? Yeah. Mm-hmm. But I didn't want to spend too much time because on why people become bullies. It's quite interesting to understand that. But they're a loathsome creature, aren't they? No one likes a bully. No. And I think that, so many people have had or have been affected by bullies, normally associated with the playground. But it's, I think, you and I have probably seen people in corporate world either being a bully or actually been on the end of some bullying, which is nasty, isn't it, in adulthood? And there's a lot of levers that the bully can use in that situation, especially in the work environment. If your boss is a bit of a bully, and it's thoroughly unpleasant, isn't it?
It is, and that's one of the things I was thinking about with regard to bullying. That actually, when we think about bullying, we probably tend to go back to the playground and sort of childhood bullying. But bullying is quite a broad canvas. You know, bullying takes many forms.
Yeah.
We can be, if we're being kind of pushed around and coerced by someone, we're being bullied.
Yeah.
That's it.
But what I wanted to move on to was really, well, I've gone back to our old friends at psychologytoday.com. What they've come up again with several points of as to how to deal with that if you are being subjected to bullying, because it's quite tricky. And I mean, when I look through these, they do sound as if, you know, the advice is good, but quite difficult to implement. But we'll just go through a couple of these, if I may. The first one was to be confident, because bullies lose their power if you don't cower. And it goes on to say, don't counterpunch. You know, rather win them over if you can with your strong, firm, courteous demeanour, which is
cool. That's flipping difficult when you're 12 in the playground,
isn't it? Yeah.
I'm just thinking back to my experiences of bullying, or being bullied rather. I mean, there's no way I had that in me. I didn't have that in the locker.
No. I think that's more in the perhaps in the workplace. Or somewhere where you can deal with it in a more adult fashion. Yeah. But yeah, in that sort of situation, you are going to cower, aren't you? You've got very little option.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it just feels, you know, my memory of those sort of situations is you just feel completely alone and isolated. It's like no one can help. It's like whichever way you turn, you're screwed. Because if you tell people, it's going to get worse. If you don't tell anyone, it's just going to be as bad as it is. It's just awful. Yeah,
it is. And that leads on to the next point about they say about staying connected, because bullies operate by making their victims feel alone and powerless. So again, having your own group of friends that's and staying connected with them should make it easier to deal with that situation.
Yeah, I think that's true. Again, thinking back to childhood bullying, which I don't know. I'm not going to say it's the worst form, but I think it's when that is happening, you're at a stage in your life where you really are very ill-equipped to deal with it.
Yeah.
But I think that's true, that probably if you have a broader support network, then that's obviously going to help. It probably doesn't help you in the moment where you've been cornered in the playground and your football cards have been stolen. But,
exactly.
But, you know, later on, perhaps it does.
Well, again, the next one is perhaps more for the adult rather than the child being subjected to bullying. It was to use simple, unemotional language. And apparently this lets the bully know that the victim does not intend to be victimised, doesn't seek forgiveness, but doesn't pose a challenge either, because a challenge gives the bully the attention and sense of power that he or she is seeking. There's sense there, but it's tough, isn't it? Tough to implement.
Yeah, I think that is tough to implement. I mean, part of what is compelling about bullying and being a bully is that it does inevitably put the victim on the back foot.
Yeah.
Makes them second guess themselves.
Yeah.
You know, makes them unsure, uncertain, not sure what they can do, how they can get out of it. You know, it's that on which a bully thrives. So all of these suggestions are great suggestions, but they're incredibly difficult to put into practice.
Oh, they are. And as I was going through them, I was sort of trying to put myself in that position. I thought, well, how would I do that? And it's tough, which again, the next one's quite tricky as well. And I set limits. You know, don't let the bully get under your skin, because that's what they want. It's tough, isn't it? But it goes on to say, again, keep it simple and straightforward. And for example, say to them, and I like this one, I might use this with you in the future, I don't think your tone is appropriate.
I think you've probably used that one with me in the past. Yeah, I mean, the more you go through this list, the more it feels like an adult.
It does, yeah.
Bullying situation that is being talked about. And again, it takes a lot of courage to say that. I mean, all of these are about the importance of standing up to a bully. All of them are about not letting a bully be in control. And I suppose if you kind of think about that as your bottom line, I need to find some way of wrestling back some control, then that in itself is good advice. I think part of the problem with bullying is that the dynamic of that relationship with you and the bully is that the bully is one up and you are one down.
Yeah.
And I think the important thing to remember is the bully is never going to come down to you. Nothing's ever going to change until you step up.
Yeah.
And as hard as that is, I think probably the answer is finding some sort of a way in which you can embolden yourself to the extent that you refuse to be bullied anymore. And different situations will require different actions and strategies, but that is fundamentally the only thing that's going to change it.
You're right. It goes on to say that one of the best ways to dealing with it is to act quickly and consistently, because the longer the bully has the power over a victim, the stronger the hold becomes.
Yeah.
And bullies will often sort of test the water and see if you're going to be standing up for yourself, or if you're going to tell someone else.
Yeah.
And the aggression will worsen, the longer you let it carry on.
Yeah, I think one of the ways in which you can, I think we might have touched upon this last time, but one of the ways in which you can perhaps embolden yourself when you're being bullied, sometimes after you've been bullied and it's finished, and you're still suffering the ill effects of it. But it's important to remember that, as was referenced by the list that you were reading through at the start, being bullied says much more about the bully than it does about you.
Yeah.
When you're being bullied, it's important to remember more often than not, you're just in the wrong place at the wrong time. It's about the emotional difficulty of the bully and their need to deflect from that and create emotional disturbance in you. But fundamentally, you're not being bullied because you're no good or there's something deficient in you. You're being bullied because the person that's standing in front of you bullying you is struggling with something themselves that they can't handle. And I think
that's brilliant. That's a brilliant and very important point. I think, especially, people that are trying to make sense of what's happening around them, not to take the blame upon themselves. Because again, most victims will look for reasons why why that's happening and blame themselves. But yeah, and I think it's really important that to look at that and say that the problem is 100% with the person that's doing the bullying and nothing to do with you at all.
It is. And one of the other reasons why that's so important is because, and this might be a slightly controversial thing to say, but actually the bullying itself is probably, for most people, less important than the legacy that bullying leaves. Most of us can get through a period of bullying. It might feel horrible at the time, and it might go on in some cases, much longer than we would have liked. But it's the hangover. It's what we carry with us afterwards, particularly if it started in childhood, this kind of sense of ourselves not being enough, not fitting in, being rejected by our peers. And that's why that realization about what bullying is important, because it enables you to kind of let go of that and put that down later in life, where you're able to say, actually, it wasn't me, was it? This is not, I don't need to feel constantly bad about myself, because what happened was about someone feeling bad about themselves rather than there being something wrong with me.
Which again leads on nicely onto the next point about talking to someone and getting help with it. Because if you do just sit with that and let it fester, you will go through all the self-blame and you will go through all the points we touched on just a moment ago. Yeah. But getting someone to have an outside view of it and to point out exactly what you said about it, the problem being wholly with the bully, then I think it can help to take a little bit of the pressure off yourself emotionally.
Yeah, I think it's very important. And it's also important if someone comes to you and is telling you that they're being bullied, and this is difficult, very difficult if you're a parent, obviously, but it's difficult. But don't only think about solutions, because sometimes the solution that you might suggest might be unpalatable to the person who's being bullied. They might fear this is just going to make things worse.
Yeah.
Sometimes what's necessary is you just need to be listened to and you need to be heard. And you need to be able to talk about what your experience is of this situation. And that in itself quite often is a great support.
Yeah.
That's what therapy is really. Therapists haven't got any answers.
Totally. No, I agree with that, which is why I ask for getting an outside point of view, I think is going to help. And it gets it off your chest anyway, doesn't it?
Yeah.
If you're starting to share the issues you have with that.
Yeah.
But that's really, the last point was, I can't really see it happening, but then there's sometimes that, you don't act in the heat of the moment straight away. Do take a little bit of time to think it over. But the quote they used here was, never interfere with an enemy while he's in the process of destroying himself. And what they think they're trying to say, that sometimes these bullies will self-implode effectively. Other people will see their behaviour and reject them. And they'll end up being, dealt with elsewhere, and certainly at school. that bully might end up getting expelled or pushed away, and the problem goes away. But I think that's quite a long-term strategy.
It is, but I think the merit of that is going back to what we were just talking about, the realization that being bullied is not about you, it's about the bully. I think the greater the extent to which you can separate yourself from what is happening and see yourself as, even though you're involved in that situation, that you're not actually what is causing it, I think that is quite helpful. If you can find some way of keeping yourself stable and separate and emotionally balanced, as difficult as that is in a situation of being bullied. And some of those things that we've been talking about there will be the things that will help you do that, talking to people, getting another perspective, making sure you've got good support, remembering it's not about you. I think that probably is true, that in the long term, if you can keep your own composure, the likelihood is that the bully will destroy themselves. That's mostly what happens, I think.
Yeah. The more you think about it, it does start to make a bit of sense, but it doesn't release the paint or the pain earlier on.
I don't suppose it releases the paint either, does it?
I don't know. Yeah, I suspect I get bullied at work. By the guy.
There's something very Freudian about that, wasn't there?
There wasn't there? Yeah,
very Freudian. I have to have a word with Les. Is he bullying you? Is there something you want to talk about?
He'd deny it, and I probably wouldn't put that at his door either. But it worked in nicely, didn't it?
It did, really.
But that's it, really. Just to sum up by saying that some of these suggestions that we've been talking about here may not have the instant impact. And sometimes you've got to play a slightly longer game, but to stay strong and keep plugging away and keep yourself safe. Yeah,
you've got to do whatever it takes to get yourself through and maintain your own semblance of order. That's right.
You may have to show a little bit of patience, so you might have to listen to season 5, episode 13, just to remind yourself about that.
I thought you were going back to flipping Take That. I know how much you love a bit of Gary Barlow.
Oh well, I listen to the Sideways Spotify playlist from time to time, and up it comes. Happy with that. Which leads me really. That's me done in a nutshell. The next point is normally our gratitude list. You've done a non-gratitude at the start of this. Is it something that you wanted to counterbalance that with by something?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't come along with anti-gratitude, would I? No gratitude. That would be wrong, wouldn't it?
Well, it would be wrong, but
okay. So this week, I'm grateful for organisations like conservation trusts, Woodland Trust, probably the National Trust, all of those organisations that keep some of our most beautiful features safe and well kept, and a joy for us to wander around on a muddy Saturday afternoon while our dogs eat fox shit. I went to Victory Wood yesterday, which is near Faversham, and I'd never been there before. And I don't know who. I think it's run by the Woodland Trust. I'm not sure. But it's just those places, those open spaces for the public, they're free. We don't have to pay anything for them. And they're just glorious.
Yeah.
And so I found myself being very grateful for that this week.
And a very good one too. I'd agree. There are some lovely open spaces that we need to maintain and to keep them in place so that everyone can enjoy them. You're absolutely right. So yeah, good one. My gratitude, in fact, it was only really came up this morning as I was travelling home, as I've been down at my daughter's and her partner's down in Frogmore, and I was grateful that I came home and there were no hold-ups on the M25.
Oh, that is something to be grateful for.
Hey, I mean, do you know how I was just thinking about it sometimes, because on the way down there, there was a little bit stop-start, but nothing. You expect on the M25, don't you?
Yeah.
But there was nothing. I got through in record time, and it was just lovely. That tense feeling you get when you see the brake lights go on ahead of you in a great long line of cars, and they're all slowing up. And you think, oh no, how long is this going to take? How long will I be held up in this for? Nothing. I'm obviously travelling on a Sunday morning. Potentially is the best time to travel anyway. But to whiz through with no hold-ups. So I was back in time to get ready to sort myself out to do this recording.
That's very good.
Grateful.
Very good. That's a shame you had to leave at 3 a.m, though, to avoid any.
Well, this was 9:45, so it wasn't. I wasn't.
That is very good.
Wasn't up exceptionally early, but I was home by 10 to 10.
Yeah, there's nothing like a free run on some motorways, is there?
Yeah. Yeah. So
both of our gratitudes this week were kind of geography based, weren't they?
They were, yeah, which is quite unintentional, but it's worked out nicely.
I had another geography thought yesterday, which I think was probably related to my my gratitude. But Google Maps.
Yeah.
I mean, it's quite fun, isn't it, to look at Google Maps and sort of drift down into places you've never been to and have a look round.
Yeah, Google Earth more than Google Maps.
Okay, whatever. But you can get to Google Earth through Google Maps, can't you?
You can, yeah.
Anyway, you're being a pedant. Anyway.
Do you feel like you're being bullied? You feel like you're being bullied?
But why are you bullying me? You knew what I meant.
You could tell me that my tone's inappropriate, if you like.
Your tone is very inappropriate. Anyway, Google Earth then, pedant. I was thinking about Google Earth, which is quite fun, isn't it, to look around Google Earth, particularly places you haven't been for a long time. Yeah. Wouldn't it be great if there was a retro Google Earth and you could look at places like they were in the 1970s? There is amazing.
There is a historic one, isn't there, which you can go on and see. Yeah, you can. It's not. I think it's sort of patched in with. I haven't looked at it myself, but yeah, you can go back. There are some that you can go back.
That must be pretty. It must be pretty patchy availability of.
I think it is. But
if we looked on that, do you think we'd be able to see us playing snowballs along St Luke's Road when we were kids?
Might be able to see, but you wouldn't be able to see us because of the flares we were wearing, probably.
Very good.
Anyway,
all right.
So that's it. In fact, just something that whilst I was away at the weekend, and I went to watch Maidstone play at Slough Town. Yeah,
you deliberately went because 9 times out of 10 when you go, they lose, and sure enough,
and they lost. But it was nice to. I was on the terracing. I had to bump into a mutual friend of ours, actually, Peter Verrill.
Yeah, Rocky.
And who's known as Rocky Verrill, yeah, and he's a very unaggressive chap, and he got that nickname back in the 80s when we were working together, and he just popped out one lunchtime, and he'd come back in, and he'd just tell you the story. He'd stopped someone being bullied. He got involved. Yeah, he'd stepped in out on the street and stopped someone being bullied. So it went nicely into this episode as well. So it was good to catch up with him, and it reminded me of why he got that name, which is not normally fitting for him, really, is it?
No, he's a very gentle soul, isn't he?
He is.
So I expect you've put Eye of the Tiger on this week on the Spotify playlist, have you?
Well, no, that's only been put on today. Those last few notes. These were prepared earlier on in the week.
So come on, put us out of our misery.
What, on Spotify search?
Yeah.
Well, there was Willy Bully, which is one of my favourite tracks.
I can't stand that song.
There's loads of versions of that. When 9 Below Zero obviously do a brilliant version. Bad Manners. There's one called called Bully by Robbie Williams. Not particularly good track.
What about the theme to Bullseye? Can't beat a bit of Bully.
A bit of Bully. It doesn't show up. It's not Spotify not carrying that particular tune at the moment, which
that would have been great on the Spotify playlist.
Well, you can try and get hold of it. I'm sure.
One.
That's a fantastic, very passable Jim Bowen you were doing there. Actually, I don't think it was him that did the voiceover on the theme tune. But anyway,
it's a left-handed screwdriver. It's an empty packet of crisps. Go on then.
Well, you're interrupting me now. Your tone's very inappropriate, right?
Why is it always a speedboat?
There's a track called Bully by, I liked the name of the group. They're called the Bloody Beetroots, which I quite liked.
Nice, yeah.
But they're an Italian electronic dance outfit, and
of course they are.
It was quite awful.
Yeah.
But the one I'm putting on, which is a track I liked anyway, was called Bully Boy. It's by Shed 7. And that's one of my. It's funny. We talked last week about bands that you sort of liked and never bought any of their material, and Shed 7 are exactly fall into that category with me.
Well, that's interesting because I'm not a massive Shed 7 fan, but I have got a Shed 7 album. So you can have it if you want.
Thanks, mate. Yeah,
I bought it on the strength of what was that single they had? Standby. Do you know that?
I can't remember it.
That is an absolutely top class banging track.
Going for Gold, was that Shed 7? I can't remember.
No, that was a quiz show on BBC.
Oh yeah, I do. Yeah.
What was his name? The guy who was hosted that something Kelly, was it Kelly?
Not Matthew Kelly.
Not Matthew Kelly. Tonight, Matthew, I'm going to be Elton John.
Anyway,
yeah.
So that's about it.
Good.
So that's my first band ticked off. Anyway,
I've already got one, haven't I? Shed 7's pretty good, but I can't remember who's mine. I
don't know, but I remember we spoke about it last week. You said, "Oh, I'm going to have a think about that." So I've had a think. I've got several, but I'll impart those over the next few weeks. Probably.
Oh, the Jam was mine, wasn't it?
Was it? Yeah, may well have been. Yeah,
Jam band I really like. Bands I really like that I haven't got any material by. Actually, we should probably introduce that as a feature.
Well, I've sort of done that quite subtly here.
Yeah, it's too subtle because I missed it.
You did, yeah, but I may add that on as a feature going forward.
All right, okay. Well, take it easy.
Thank you, sir. I'm off to a lunch at round of my cousin's now, and I hope she doesn't send me a bill afterwards. Because that would be
I hope she does. That would be magnificent. I'm definitely going to do that next time you come round.
Thanks, mate. Look forward to it.
All right, laters.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Sideways was created by Graham Landy and Martin Pankhurst. If you want to read more about our work or sort through the extensive archive of past episodes, just visit grahamlandywellbeing.co.uk/sideways-podcast. You can follow us on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram at Sideways Podcast, and you can email us if you have a question or if there's something you'd like us to cover. But most of all, we want to tell you how grateful we are that you come and listen, and we ask that if you've enjoyed what you've heard, that you spread the word. And we'll see you next week.